Shopify helped businesses break sales records over the holidays with the world's best converting checkout. Let's hear that one more time. The world's best converting checkout. Shopify's legendary checkout makes it easier for customers to shop on your website, across social media, and everywhere in between. Now that's music to your ears. Any way you spin it, you can be a smash hit with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/records.
Lynn Patner is an author, social worker, Reiki practitioner, certified hypnotherapist, and we're talking about her book, The Awakened Soul. The timing on this was really interesting because it happened to coincide with Father's Day. She shares a couple of memories about her father.
I had intuition as a child. I had intuition that my father was going to die, and I called home on the day he died. I pretty much closed down after that.
Lynn Patner, MSW. I'm on the website right now. Out of the darkness, the sun always rises.
It always does. That was a picture I took when I was in India in 2020, just before the pandemic hit.
Good timing.
Yeah, great timing. It's terrific.
Good timing.
Thank God I got back into the country. I was sicker than a dog, but I don't even know if I had it because no one was talking about it then. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show today. This is really a treat for me. I really appreciate it.
The book is called The Awakened Soul, but you're so much more than a book, okay? And what you do is transformational coaching. So we're going to let you introduce yourself and go from there, all right?
Oh, this is a new one.
Yes.
Hi. I have now been given the task of introducing myself. Okay, my name is Lynn Patner, and I was a social worker for San Mateo County Children's Protective Services for 10 years, and I had a lot of lessons I learned there. I was interested in spirituality. I was basically interested in energy. I was just a normal person, a normal everyday housewife. For those who are older on this call, I was a Donna Reed clone, so I dressed up every day, took my kids to school, had 2 kids, had a dog, lived in the suburbs, but I didn't drive a station wagon. I couldn't do that. But I was married, and when everything was happening, I never got the memo. Excuse my voice. Never got the memo about everything going on in the world. But the mysteries always excited me, and I knew somewhere along the line that something was really there. So my guides tried to get a hold of me in my early 20s, but even though I knew it was something weird, I just didn't play with it. I just said, I don't know what you're talking about, and let me alone. And that basically I had fun with it. But it wasn't until I had an experience with 2 German shepherds and a man who could send energy from his aura to my aura that I felt energy. And it was like so exciting. I had never, ever experienced before. So I want you to know that I have written a book because going to Trader Joe's was the only excitement I had in my life during this pandemic. And I have guides, a couple of them, who really think it's a good idea to push me. And what I was supposed to do is write this book, write down my stories. So through the pandemic, that's exactly what I did. I wrote a book called The Awakened Soul, Finding the Light Within. And I have I've done this for 36 years. So I've been busy healing myself so I could assist others in their growth. So I did a lot of shamanic work where I learned how to open my heart and let it all flow out. Because being a CPS social worker, you take a lot of this abuse in. And you have, if you're an empath, which I am, you take it in doubly. So I had to learn how to let it go. And I just experienced all this magic, and I'm still experiencing it. And it's so much fun. I know you guys listening, but I don't know where to stop in my introduction of me because I've had such a great time following my path of enlightenment that everybody has. Everybody's here for a reason. And especially everybody on this phone call because, they wouldn't be tuning into your station if they weren't into something bigger than they were and were curious. And my whole journey was based on being curious.
That's a great introduction. I want to go back because you said you kind of toyed with it and ignored it in your 20s. But what happened prior to that? How were you were already using the term guides. So as a child, What did you see ghosts? What happened then?
No, as a child, I had intuition as a child. I had intuition that my father was going to die. And I called home on the day he died. I pretty much closed down after that. and didn't open again. In my early 20s, I had an experience where there was a music coming to me. There was a beautiful concerto, which I didn't even know what a concerto was, violin music. And my husband couldn't hear it. And it was such a magnificent tune. And no one could hear it. And so the next time I looked out my bushes and there was this painting, a velvet painting. And I would sit everyone down, look at the bushes. Do you see the velvet painting with the woman with the red lips and the black hair? No one saw it. The last thing was when I was in my 20s and there was Morse code. I was washing dishes and I heard tap, tap, whatever. And I said, whoever you are trying to contact me. Now, where I'm getting this information from is not the Donna Reed I was. So I'm playful. I'm very playful. So in being playful, I said, whoever you are is trying to contact me. I don't understand violin music. I can't paint, and I don't know what Morse code is, and it stopped.
Okay, this is The Awakened Soul, Discovering the Light Within, a spiritual memoir. That's kind of a rude awakening.
Well, it was an awakening, but I didn't awake.
Gosh, I think it stopped because it said you weren't quite ready and you weren't curious enough.
Right. I didn't understand. Even when I did my channeled writing, when I was teaching a class and did the channeled writing, automatic writing, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. This is the most important thing I did. This is one of the most important things I did. I had a person in my life that said, your guide's trying to get a hold of you. Sit down and write, what do you want to say? And then make little loops. And I did that. And my guide said, I have been waiting such a long time to get a hold of you. Sit down and be quiet.
Yeah.
You know, this is the truth.
Uh-huh.
And I had already channeled this piece of information that my guide told me about, but I didn't know it was a guide. I mean, there's a naive part of me that is really, you know, you could say this poor woman's been out to lunch. Look at everybody's trying to get a hold of her.
Uh-huh.
She sees and she hears and this and that, but nothing's coming. She's not awakening.
Yeah.
We're going to have to really kick her. And they couldn't kick me because I have free will. So I had to declare to the universe that I would be spiritual in 2 years because of the energy I received was so powerful that I was curious at what is this healing energy? What is this about? How can I help? What can I do? Because I'm a helper. So I did Reiki, and I did Reiki, and I did hands-on, and what am I? I can't even think of all the things I've done. I became a certified hypnotherapist. I mean, I was searching, and following whatever showed up in my path. And that's how I learned through all my stories, my lessons. You know, that my ears did not want to hear anymore. They wanted me to go to my heart and listen. These were powerful stories that I learned. I talked to a 6-month-old baby. Now listen to this one. And she said to me, thank you for helping me out here, but I was born to teach my parents how to love. And I told that to the father, who was an alcoholic and a drug abuser and had HIV and everything else. And he could have gone into my supervisor and said, you have a social worker here that's crazy. But he didn't. And that baby ended up going home. So what I did about my memoirs for people to realize is that everything that happened to me, all the classes, all the people I met in my life taught me something, and I'm still learning. And what I'm learning is that you have to allow. You have to ask for assistance. You're all born for a reason. To me, God is like the ocean. It's huge, expansive, it's loving, it's kind, it's compassionate. It's not judgmental. And if you're a drop of the ocean, that makes you a divine being. As a divine being, you've been born for a reason. You have magical reasons. You have to ask for them, follow your passion, and then let it go. You ask for help, and then you blow it to God, or you blow it to Jesus or Mary or whatever religious background you are. And then you hold on tight because you're always going to be assisted. Sometimes it's a Cecil B. DeMille movie, and sometimes it's not. But when you pay attention and you see how wondrous and magical this world is, it literally takes your breath away.
I want to go back to the script you had. You were doing the Donna Reed script. And that's the problem with a lot of our first go-rounds with this is that whatever is in our community, whatever's in our social circle, that's what we assume is that's the way the world works. And that's the way everybody has it because, of course, you know, we kind of extrapolate and assume everybody knows what we know. When was it okay for you to stop doing Donna Reed?
When I stopped doing Donna Reed, when I went to see this foreign doctor who sent energy from his aura to my aura, I literally stopped. I stopped also when I took the S training, Earhart seminar training in the 70s. That woke me up to I'm responsible and I'm not a victim. A lot of people play victim mentality and they keep getting victimized by perpetrators. So I had to learn that I'm no longer a victim. I've created my universe.
EST, that might be familiar to some people, but for others it isn't. So
Earhart seminar training. Werner Earhart was a man in the 70s who combined Eastern philosophies with Western and put on a training. And it basically was a very awakening training, especially in San Francisco. He was known for having weekends. You had to go, there were timeouts to go to the bathroom. You couldn't just go to the bathroom unless you had your doctor's notes. Everybody was really pissed off about that one.
That's control. Yeah, that's control.
Yeah. But the control is when people get uncomfortable, they go to the refrigerator, they go to the bathroom, they leave. So this training was perfect in retrospect because you couldn't go to the bathroom, and you didn't get Kleenex. This is an S story. I was in S and I was in my 30s. I had just turned 30. They used to do these guided meditations, which were phenomenal because I'd never experienced it before. And the trainer in this one said, what would you say to someone living or dead if you could? And all of a sudden, what came up for me is, why did you die? So the first time I told you I called home from school and I knew my dad was going to die, that came up. Why did you die? I was 12 years old. He died. And I couldn't think anymore. And the tears and, the mucus is coming out and your face is red. You look like a mess. And there's 250 people in the training. I don't remember anything else except for he said, what do you give up in life by not communicating what you need to communicate to someone living or dead? And I got, you give up your aliveness. And I stood up in front of 250 people and shared what happened to me. And the leader said, Lynn, did your father love you? And I said, I don't know. He came home for dinner. We had dinner every night. We'd watch television. I said, Lynn, did your father love you? I'm not sure. We went out on Sundays. We went for rides. He went on and on. Lynn, did your father love you? And that was over and over, maybe for 4 minutes. And in S, you either have someone loves you or they don't love you. There's nothing in between in S. It either is or not isn't. And finally he said, Lynn, did your father love you? And I said, yes. And then he said to me, do you think your dad died on purpose? Now, I have to tell you something, that a 12-year-old little girl whose whole life changed in an instant said, yes. I believed he died on purpose because we didn't mourn him. We weren't taught how to mourn or grieve. We just went on with our lives. So now I want to take you from that point, and I told everybody about it because at S, you're not supposed to tell anybody what S is about. And I, of course, hate when someone does that to me. Mm-hmm. So if you told me I couldn't be a doctor, I would have been a doctor. Okay? It's true. I just can't stand someone limiting me. I can do what I want to do. Anyway, 20 years later, I am going to see this man who recently passed away, but he's from Los Angeles. His name was Hans Christian King. He was a medium. He was incredible. And as I come out of the elevator, he's standing there and he said, there's a father figure. And he's throwing flowers all around you saying, tell my daughter I love her. Tell my daughter I love her. 20 years before I had been in this training, does your father love you? I don't know. That's how it works. It was just another story. I was blown out of my mind.
You needed to hear it.
Yes. And who knew? I mean, I was just there. I'm an ordinary being being surrounded by some woo-woo stuff and wanting to share it, and no one wants to hear it. So my whole journey was basically alone.
I think that's how a lot of people feel, and especially right now.
Right.
All the stuff that the news headlines over and over and over, crisis, chaos, crisis, chaos. And so when you're in your storytelling, reminding people we're all human And every day can be a crisis, or we can just sit and go, why am I here? What is my purpose? And you do that. That's why you're a transformational coach. You lay out a guideline to help people get centered, in my opinion, and just say, I don't have to listen to all the clutter. This is my story. I'm writing it. So how do you instruct people?
Well, the basic thing is that the whole world's changing. We're leaving my era where everything was more black and white. You know, it's like with the climate change, our planet shifted. And what we're doing to create, we're assisting them. We didn't have to worry about that in the 50s, 60s, and 70s because we didn't know about it. If you really look at what's coming in, he, him, sure, they, them, trans, sexuality and how you think about yourself is all evolving. So thoughts and everything is evolving. Wars, chaos, everything's coming to the top. Proud Boys, all of this anger and fear. And so what is being asked of us now, and I mean us, all of us listening on this radio, is to say, wow, this is a lot of stuff that doesn't feel good. It's just terrible. But don't join it because your thoughts create your reality. And if you go there, you contribute to the fear and the chaos. What you want to do is stop and say, wow, I'm a light being. I come from love and compassion. I come from curiosity. I come from knowing that I'm here for a reason. I'm coming from a place where I'm seeing wonders, where I'm seeing things that everyone said aren't real, that they can't be real, like fairies and orbs and all sorts of things people see. And so what should I do? What should I do? Step into your soul. Step into the light of your soul. Choose your egoic personality, human self that just shut down for a minute and say, you know what? If I hold a candle in a dark room, it will illuminate the room. If I contribute to the darkness, no light will go on. So basically why I had to write the book now, according to my guides who've been yelling and screaming at me for years to write the book, is because it is important now for people to hold the light. Everybody that's been on a path of awakening, wherever it takes you, to hold that light, because that was what will offset the darkness. That's what I know for sure.
Now, you speak about Julia Cameron in the book, and I remember The Artist's Way 2 and 3 and 4 anyway.
I don't even do the 1.
Yeah, well, it that was a transformational change for a lot of people because you start the day with 3 pages. And then,
it was for me too.
Yeah.
It was very transformational. I definitely believe if people want to, and I'm working with a lady right now who needs to make some money, and I'm going to do the whole Artist's Way with her, and then I'm going to have her teach the class at her church, teach her meditation and things like that. But basically, that was when I found out about synchronicity. Everybody was having a synchronicity in the Artist's Way. What I learned about that, my first step in learning after I did the energy work. Now, I think I did the Artist's Way before the energy work. I do think that. Yes, it was. The energy work with the Artist's Way, I had just started my spiritual quest. And so I was asked by the rabbi at our temple to teach a group called the Artist's Way. And in that group, there's a story that I had 18 people show up, 16 Reformed Catholics, 2 Jews, and myself. So it was a rabbi, 18 Reformed Catholics, and 2 Jews. And the Jews came to spy on me because they didn't know what I was doing. It was very funny. And I taught that class free for years. And then I must have taught it for 5 years, at least 4 to 5 years. And every time I taught it, I got better and better and better, and more miracles happened. And it was like, wow, what's going on here? What's happening with synchronicities? Why is this happening? Why do you go into a department store after a sale and find exactly what you need? Why does someone come into your life to show you, if people ask for something, you ask your guides, you just, like I say, fake it till you make it. You sit down one day and you say, listen, guides, I'm ready. I am so ready. And they jump off the couch, open a bottle of champagne, pop the bombs into their mouth and yell, woohoo, let's go. And then if you need a job, you will be sitting in having a cup of coffee, and someone will be sitting right next to you that is the perfect person for you. You have to ask. We are free will. So when I taught the class, I learned that you have to ask. You ask and synchronicities happen. And it was like, wow. And I still didn't get it. I just couldn't fathom something as big as I know now operating. But the universe is here for your behalf. All they want to do is assist you. That was a great class. But that was just a beginning jump. After that, I really went into energy work.
Lynn Patner, The Awakened Soul, Discovering the Light Within. Back in a few.
When something happens to your car, you might say,
My car!
But what you really need to say is something that can actually help.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And just like that, State Farm is there to help you file your claim right on the State Farm mobile app. So just remember, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
Lynn Patner, author of The Awakened Soul, describes how teaching the class, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, changed her life, gave her a new perspective.
That just showed me about synchronicities. And then I ran a group out of my home, and I taught what I was learning. And I got in touch with my mother, who had passed away, and my aunt was at the first women's group, and so was these were lessons I learned. So the first women's group I had at my house, I had a friend of mine helping me set it up. And I invited my grandmother. I took her crystal bowl. I filled it with white sand. And I have to tell you, I'm playing. I'm really playing. I may be 78 years old, but I'm 4 years old mentally. So I'm playing. And I filled the sand in the bowl, white sand, and put a little goddess thing in it. And I also put in some sage. And I invite my grandmother. I say, Grandma, you were formally invited to the first women's group. And then I fill my mother's vase with gladiolas, her favorite flower. I say, Mom, you were formally invited to the first women's group. And out of this woman's mouth comes, your aunt wants to be included too. So I said, it's really funny. So I say, okay, you see the Yadro birds over there? Aunt Mildred, you are formally invited to the first women's group. And my friend says, your aunt says the birds are not in an important enough location.
Oh.
You have to learn that my Aunt Mildred was a perfectionist. I had to move the birds. And I said to my friend, what does she think now? Is it okay? And she said, yes. So the next day after my group, I called my cousin Berna and I said, you won't believe who showed up at my first women's spirituality class, your mother. So these are the lessons I learned in my book. Do you find that a little bizarre?
I think it's great. I think that's the fun part. It's that the thing, you left it open. You didn't have any expectation. You just created an opening for anything to come through. And it did.
You can't expect, because if you expect, you're always going to be disappointed. You have to go through that lesson.
Sometimes
you have to go through the lesson.
Yeah.
Limiting, you limit. Not only you limit, it's like when you order a salad and you don't want an avocado. You don't keep following the guy behind. Sir, you remember, I don't want an avocado on my salad. Really, no avocado. I'm allergic to avocado. And then it's,
That's the only thing you'll remember.
Julia Cameron says, she teaches this too, because she says, you want a red Corvette, and the red Corvette starts coming to you. Then you say, oh my God, I don't know if I can afford the insurance of the red Corvette. And it stops. And then it starts, you say, oh no, I can afford it. And it starts again. And then they say, oh, I don't know for real. And it goes. What I found on my journey is that our childhood wounds from the age of 0 to 8, somewhere along the line, every single human being gets wounded. And that our wounds keep us from getting the whole enchilada. So my wound is I'm not enough. I got that wound when I was 3 years old. I lived in an apartment building with all adults that absolutely loved me. Everything I wanted to do, they did. So then when I went to nursery school for the first time and saw this beautiful dollhouse with the furniture and the dolls and it was phenomenal. And the washing machine and the dryers and everything a 3-year-old little girl would love in a dollhouse. And I took over. The whole thing. You do this, you do that, just like I'd been doing at home. And no one would play with me. And no one assisted me at that moment of my life either. So what was my message? There's something wrong with me.
I can share a similar one with that at an age. Okay. So 2 years old. That's when my brother was born. My brother was in the hospital, very, very ill, very ill. And so I was living with my grandmother, my father's mother. And I was there for extended period of time. When my mom came to pick me up, she said, "Hello, Wendy, how are you?" And I said, "Hello, Wendy, how are you?" I repeated everything. I blipped. I just zoned out because I felt at that point I had been abandoned and I didn't know why.
You were.
So,
that's a big wound. That's a major life wound.
Yeah. But it took me a while to figure that out.
Well, of course, because, I have a client that was put to bed when she was a baby. Her parents used to brag that they would put her to bed with a bottle at 6 o'clock at night. And then at 9 o'clock in the morning, they'd get her out of bed. And, they'd get her out for breakfast. Mm-hmm. What do you think happens to babies from sleeping? The parents slept soundly, or maybe away from the baby's room or something. What happens when the baby gets up in the middle of the night? They start to cry, and no one comes. So they cry louder. No one comes, and they go into rage. They go into anger, and then they fall asleep. No one came.
Yeah.
So every time, she's 43 years old now, every time something happens that throws her off course, she would absolutely go to that crumbling place where no one was helping her.
See, some of that is our society as well, because at one point they taught, do not respond if the baby cries, because then you'll spoil the child. Every time they cry, you'll go running, and this child will be spoiled. And it was like, let them cry. Just let them cry. They'll cry themselves out. I thought, we've done so many things of the way things should happen, instead of just saying, this is a human being, and I'm going to care for the human being the way I would like to be cared for. And I'm going to demonstrate emotion and trust and feeling and empathy and compassion. We still have a long way to go with that, and it's different in every society. So I'm speaking to what I remember being taught at a certain time. And of course, in every community, that will be different. But those kinds of things that we take as be-all, end-all, universal pieces of knowledge are sometimes just very, very, in some community, a small piece of the world has decided that's the way it works. And then we have to figure out, okay, now how does it really work?
Well, also what happens is they raise victims.
Yes.
So victims find perpetrators. Yeah. She married a sociopath. So, I'm real familiar with these acts.
Yeah.
Your wounds stay with you and even though I was wounded at 3, I'm meeting with Jack Canfield to review my book, and I'm scared to death. And I had what's called a panic attack, but I thought I was having a heart attack. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe my book wasn't good enough, and I got scared. Now, I was 76 years old. I said, oh, my God, this is ridiculous. But your wounds create your reality because they're so unconscious you don't even know they're there. So when Jack was talking to me, he had a wound that he wasn't enough either. So he tried to be better than anybody. And then he was called out on that. It's a very interesting thing. But people have to realize that their life, you don't have to spend time with your wounds. What you have to spend time with is growing in the light, growing as much as you can in this lifetime, and asking for assistance from your guides and your angels and from your master beings that are here on this planet to teach us. And if you're talking to one or channeling from one, that's phenomenal. I love listening to Patricia Cordoverbles, who talks about her channeling of the master beings, Archangel Michael and stuff like that. That is something I love to listen to because their wisdom's coming down to us, for us.
In terms of what you do as a social worker, and you mentioned, you worked with people from all different walks of life in different situations, abuse. The one thing that if someone can go back and identify one of those core wounds, because mine stood out, and so I could remember it, especially when my mom said, well, when I came home with your brother, this is what you did. I thought, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
So it helped that she remembered because it was so out of character. It didn't make any sense. But to have that memory given back to me so I could say, okay, it wasn't about me. It was because that was a life or death. He almost died. They pumped every medicine they could into him to save him. He had meningitis, spinal meningitis. Wow. And so that, as a child, though, you're only aware of your own universe. And if anyone has those kinds of incredibly impactful emotional events that they can dig out and heal, it makes life go in an entirely different direction. And I think that's core, because those are impressionable years. So those, for me, that was one of the first things I worked at resolving.
Absolutely, because what you do is you see it throughout your life. So abandonment was a major issue. Abandonment. So as a little girl, if you called to you people who moved away, or at a certain time they didn't like you, or a boyfriend that all of a sudden dropped you, ghosted you.
Yep.
Those are the wounds showing up differently. But those are the wounds I had. I was dumped at camp when I was 12. Something was wrong with me. You wouldn't have dumped me if I was good. Something was wrong with me.
I had the opposite reaction. Let me stay at camp.
You dumped them.
Let me stay at camp. I came home. My mom said, if you talk any more about camp, you're not going back. I was, okay, yeah, I love it at home. It's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. But it was, she had to threaten me to shut up about camp. She said, everybody else has gone home.
Everyone else is going home. You're coming home too, you little brat.
I was like, okay, fine.
Oh, God, I love it.
Yeah, it was
people can easily find their wounds. It's not so difficult. It's being able to see how your life has gone. What lessons do you keep calling to yourself? What keeps happening in your life? There's certain ones like I'm not enough, or no one loves me. I'm not lovable, and there's all sorts of those kind of wounds. But that's not the only thing. That comes later on. People on this path that are on the path, just ask for assistance. Your wounds will be shown to you at the proper time. Everyone here on your phone call is being gifted something. And so what they want to do is say, thank you, and I want to learn more, and I'm turning it over to my higher self or my I am presence, or to whatever they believe, my masters, my guides, whatever, my angels. You will be shown what you need to be shown when it's your time to be shown it. I don't think there's any right way. I think everybody has their own path and their own way of learning. And I'm here to support anyone that wants to learn further about woundology. But that's not the only thing. We're in the process of becoming the light. We need to focus on all of the wonderful stuff in our hearts, and how loving we are, that we're divine beings in an earth school for our soul to learn. And God bless us, we are still learning, but we're here at this time is so powerful. As we talked about in the beginning, the world is changing. Wars, anger, fear, politics. Look at the stuff. People don't believe the truth. It's like, where are you out to lunch? But if you stay there, you join in that group. So what you have to say is there's a reason everything's coming to the surface, because dark can't stay if light shows up. That's very important. And that's why I wrote the book, because it was my contribution to assisting people through my stories to wake up and call in and let go. And what did I learn? I learned how to heal. And I learned it through funny things and learned it through hard things.
When you're talking about being with Jack Canfield and saying, here at this age, I am still working on that one. I think that is a callback to when we have a pattern that is repeating, it will repeat until we've crossed that hurdle to the next one. And so you still, that was one you really need to finally just sit down and say, yep, I got you,
Yep. And then your life changes, because once I let it go, and if anyone wants to see the interview I had with Jack Canfield, it's hysterical. Go to my webpage, lynnpatner.com, and I'm sitting with him talking like we're the best of friends in the whole wide world. I had no fear. I had no angst. I just sat there and presented my work. And he loved it. And he gave me a quote. He gave me a quote to use on my book. But if I had stayed where I was, he wouldn't have liked the book. nothing would have transpired because I let it go, because I let this fear, that this chain that I had around my neck from the age of 3, when I cut it and said, okay, Lynn, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry, sweetheart, when you were a little kid, this happened, but get over it right now because it's not serving you. On the other hand, if people are sexually abused, emotionally abused, or physically battered, or any of those, you need therapy because those are really hard things, especially if your moms don't believe you. It makes it a double whammy. And there's a lot of people who have been abused. So please, you call someone who works with abuse and you go back, you rescue your child, and then you travel on up. You go, but the child needs to be taken care of. I definitely believe in that.
Here's another one that's unique. When I was at probably middle school, I remember certain things in my life that had happened where I had embarrassed myself. Oh, just awful, awful, awful. And so at night before I went to sleep, I would take those things out of this little box that I kept them in. And there were probably 5 or 6 things that were just excruciatingly painful, embarrassing. And get this, I'm in, junior high. And at one point I thought, this is what I'm going to bed with. I don't need to sleep with these issues anymore. And now I can't remember. I can remember one of those things that I crucified myself over.
Wow.
But that was, at that age. So even
that's amazing.
Children are doing this themselves, and I don't know where I got it. Nobody told me to do that. But so, this is a universal problem for all of us to understand that we don't have to shame ourselves.
No, but we do.
Yeah.
If you looked at your thighs and said, "Oh my God, look at my thighs," have you ever looked at your body and said, "Ay"?
I think everybody has those issues, and
men don't. Men
no,
really
well, some
don't.
do.
Some do. Some do.
I know.
Some do. Some do.
Yeah.
But not all. They don't say, "Oh my God, I can't wear a bathing suit. Look at my thighs." Whatever you learned to do, you learned it, and that was a big tool for you. That was great.
That gives you an idea that even at a young age, we learn these patterns of, this is unacceptable. I am unacceptable in that way. And so I had those things that I was just, traumatizing myself again for no reason. I can also empathize with kids today who are going through the same thing 10 times worse because they're public, all the things they do are
terrible.
Public.
It's terrible what they're doing to children. But that is doing to everybody. In San Francisco, there was a trans. I don't think he was trans. I don't know. He was a drag queen. He was reading stories in the library, dressed up as a character to these kids who were just loving it. And these bad boys came in, the bad boys, which I didn't even know we had in San Francisco, and was starting to rough him up in front of the kids, called him all sorts of names. People. Everybody has a heart, a soul. They bleed blood. Just take care of your own self. Don't bother other people. The Asian people, a woman being thrown over because she's Asian. We need to become more the light. This is a crucial time. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but I know that you and I are doing our part the best we can to be able to bring up whoever needs to be brought up to hold that energy of light. Just imagine you're a light beam.
One of the things that you recommended was doing the automatic writing or the writing in the morning or writing whenever it's convenient. Just write down anything, write it on paper, don't judge, just get it out and give yourself a chance to examine your thoughts in your mind. I liked that instruction I heard on another interview.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So in my automatic writing, which I want to read to you because it was given, my automatic writing, I write all the time to my guides and they laugh at me. But this was the first time I had an audit when I was teaching the Artist Way. This is what came out. And this is the kind of work that the guides really do. They teach. They never put you down. They never make you wrong. They are loving, supportive, and they're teachers. So this says, there are many hurting people in the world, all trying to tap their way out of a shell and emerge healthy. So many barriers. Look to do this work joyfully. Don't be your own worst friend. Remember, you are doing the best you can with the tools you have. Allow this process to go on and get out of the way, especially if you are not serving yourself. Always remember you are not alone. There are many entities around who are assisting people in their growth toward the light. They may not be aware of it at first, but the moments of synchronicity are too numerous for the unfolding conscious mind to ignore. It is truly wonderful to observe all the positive growth through pain and the emergence of a new spiritual being that will shed light on the people in their own way. One must experience the pain and anguish in order to see it as only a momentary stop-off in life before they get on to the real work of living. There is a plan for everyone, and everyone must take the journey alone. That was powerful then, and it's even more powerful for me now.
The Awakened Soul, Discovering the Light Within is the name of the book. My guest, Lynn Patner, and the website, you can check it out, and also check out that cute little video with you and Jack Canfield. Lynn Patner, Patner.com. My book is available on Amazon, Talking to Nightlights, too. You can also check out my blog, and that's Talking to Nightlights on WordPress or talkingtonightlights.com. Thanks for listening.
There's a million things we have to do today, and worrying doesn't need to be one of them. That's why 1 in 9 families use Life 360 for safety to connect to the people that matter most. Join today and get premium features that keep your family protected with real-time location updates, crash detection, and 24/7 roadside assistance. Because let's face it, you're more than just your to-do list. You're a family. So let's live Life 360. Download for free today.